Hello, today is Sunday, May 10th, 2026. Here is your daily signal. According to Fortune, the Iran war continues to inflict severe strain on its economy, as recent revelations show inflation on certain items reaching 100% in just days and 1 million Iranians losing their jobs. Since 2024, the conflict has created major disruptions in global oil supply channels, with US and EU sanctions adding to volatility across international markets. Oil prices surged to $102 per barrel in April, marking the highest level since 2022, and global inflation rates have accelerated due to Iranian supply cuts and persistent shipping blockades. In April-May 2026, commodity prices rose by an average of 12%, as Bloomberg notes, and the European Central Bank is now signaling possible interest rate adjustments to counter inflation pressures. The International Labour Organization, reported in the Financial Times, warns of mounting unemployment risks, especially in oil-importing countries. Near-term, elevated consumer prices are likely across the US, EU, and Asia as energy costs rise, and employment sectors that depend on oil imports such as manufacturing and transport are expected to face increased layoff risks. Medium-term, central banks may raise interest rates, potentially suppressing investment in emerging markets. Geopolitical instability could further encourage diversification away from Middle Eastern oil sources, reshaping global supply chains over time. Next, onto consumer adaptations in the U.S. amid higher gas and travel prices. Fortune reports that Americans are cutting back on driving, canceling vacations, and adjusting their budgets in response to soaring gas prices. 44% of households have reduced driving, and 34% have changed travel plans, with expectations that gas prices will stay high until at least 2027. Since mid-2023, U.S. gasoline prices have remained above $3.50 per gallon nationwide, and overall travel costs including airfare, car rentals, and hotels have climbed 7% over the previous year. Despite high demand for holidays, consumers have shifted to alternative transportation, reducing discretionary travel. AAA's May 2026 survey reveals that 23% of Americans plan to drive less this summer, while Expedia noted a 15% increase in bookings for regional destinations, and Delta Airlines reported a 10% rise in public transit-linked airport bookings. Major gas retailers like Shell and Chevron continue to see steady sales, with the Energy Information Administration closely monitoring price trends, and travel industry leaders observing significant shifts in consumer behavior. In the near term, domestic tourism is moving toward local and regional destinations as public transit and ride-sharing demand rises, particularly in urban areas. Medium-term, long-distance travel sectors could see decreased revenues, with major travel companies adjusting their marketing strategies and persistent price pressures prompting investment in electric vehicles and alternative mobility solutions. Next, we turn to corporate workforce restructuring driven by AI advances. TechCrunch highlights that Cloudflare has made 1,100 jobs obsolete because of AI-driven efficiency gains, even as its revenue hits an all-time high, marking the company's first large-scale layoff. Oracle, meanwhile, also faces headlines for layoffs prompted by automation affecting hundreds of employees and sparking controversy around severance and worker protections. The restructuring reflects a growing trend among tech companies to leverage automation and AI integration, resulting in role changes, departmental realignment, and broad industry shifts toward digital transformation. According to TechCrunch, Cloudflare's recent job cuts confirmed May 9, 2026 were primarily in support and operations, as further detailed in The Verge. Oracle's actions were described by Reuters, noting hundreds of layoffs tied directly to AI adoption. Key stakeholders include Cloudflare CEO Matthew Prince and Oracle CEO Safra Catz, while labor boards and industry regulators closely monitor these developments. In the near term, fired workers are likely to face difficulty finding new roles as automation becomes a corporate priority. Medium term, while productivity may rise, growing concerns around job security in tech could prompt additional restructuring as AI adoption accelerates across similar firms. Regulatory scrutiny and labor advocacy may intensify as stakeholders seek to manage the broader impact on workforce stability. Now, onto the markets. The S&P 500 moved higher today, rising 0.83% with momentum driven by gains in semiconductors. Stocks surged more than 5%, led by Intel, which jumped 13.96%. Nvidia also logged strong growth, while AMD was the session's biggest gainer and low among the underperformers. Healthcare stocks dipped 0.85%, with Roman 45 closing lower and low standing out as a notable laggard. Finance edged down by 0.60% despite Oracle advancing 0.70%. Real estate stocks held steady, with XLRE barely changed and minimal leadership within the category. Semiconductors soared, bolstered by Intel and AMD, while Marvell and Qualcomm also contributed significant gains. In commodities, silver led the way with a daily gain near 2%, and copper advanced almost 2.5%, while U.S. oil slipped over 1%. Among favorites, AMD rallied over 11% today, but Microsoft finished slightly lower, and Intel was the top gainer. Adobe closed down 1.35%, and Alibaba eased by 0.67%. Leading gainers included Adent, up 563%, Mobileye up 434%, and EEL higher by 180%. The worst performer was POM, dropping 86%, followed by RKLZ, which fell nearly 70%. That's it for today. You can find more news and details on our website. Goodbye.